was out.
We're back.
You know? And, you know, can you imagine what happened when they saw that?
Who?
I mean, it hadn't been validated yet by the critics or by, you know.
But Hadassah saw the producers?
Yeah, I mean, you know, and they saw a lot of Germans, a lot of Nazis jumping around. They said, what kind of picture is this? We expected a 2,000-year-old man, you know, nice little chicken soup, something, you know. They saw the entire German army coming at them, you know. They really didn't get it.
I guess not.
Well, there's a great story about Buster Keaton, who was religiously previewed all his comedies, you know, and took a picture out, I think it was called Seven Chances, and it was a wonderful reaction to the picture, and it didn't have a good ending. It just sort of lay there at the end, you know. It was a great chase with 7,000 women chasing him because they were all brides, a wonderful scene, and they all, literally 7,000 women, all chasing him, and it sort of petered out, and that was it, you know, and the audience said, and he felt something was wrong. But right toward the end of the scene, he's running away from these women, and he's running down a hill, and as he was running, 3 rocks just got dislodged and rolled after him. This big laugh from the audience, and that was it. Mm-hmm. And he said, we're going to shoot a new ending. And he went back, and he shot for about a week, and he took those 3 rocks, and he built an avalanche. He started with 3 rocks, and he built it to bigger rocks, and finally these huge boulders, you know, the size of those cameras, you know, rolling down after him. Well, it's one of the great sequences ever done, you know. It's just hysterically funny, surrealistic sequence, and breathtaking, and all because he got a little laugh with 3 little pebbles, you know.
Why did Keaton hit the skids? That's seems to be one of the sad mysteries of Hollywood.
Well, he was essentially a pantomime artist, yeah. And when sound came along, the pantomime artists went out of business, really, and also they were killed by something brand new, cartoons.
That's right. Cartoons could do a lot of things they were doing anymore.
Cartoons could do, and the cartoons became cheaper.
Now we're making films that imitate the cartoons.
I just did a picture called What's Up, Doc, which is, there's a chase in it that is absolutely Buster Keaton chase, you know, I mean, just stolen, lifted.
Is it funny, though, with modern cars?
Well, we don't use cars all the way through it. We use something else for a while. But it's true.
Tell us, what do you
A grocery cart.
Grocery cart.
Yeah.
Sorry I asked that.
I'm sorry. But Chuck Jones, who did all the great Bugs Bunny cartoons, told me that, it's funny you mentioned that because he directed most of the great Bugs Bunny Roadrunner cartoons, and he said he was totally influenced by Buster Keaton. He said everything he did in the cartoons was taken from Keaton.
That's right. They just dropped out of business, and I came along with it half one night, really, the thing you saw there, and tried something. Tried to combine the leading man and the comedian in one, rather than
comic relief.
Comic relief. See?
That's right. There were always 2 people before.
The classic 4 in drama was hero, heroine, villain, comedian.
And then Gabby Hayes running off with his pants on fire.
Gabby Hayes was a comedian. So I combined the leading man and the comedian in one, and got a very, you know, Mr. Deeds and those kind of pictures.
That was the first time it was done.
It happened one night. It was really the first time.
It's strange to think that somebody had to invent that, but it's really.
Right. Well,
so the leading man was doing the pratfalls as well.
Right. The leading man was getting the laughs. You see, to combine the comedian and the leading man was a very felicitous combination.
You knew Max Sennett and that whole group of people and saw what it was like to invent those gags and things. Who was the man you said you envied so much who could think of gags so quickly for Laurel and Hardy? Leo McCarey.
Leo McCarey, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Leo McCarey. He was, he made the most wonderful Laurel and Hardy films. I want to tell you something else about our particular medium, because I want to tell you that how wonderful this medium of ours is and how different it is from the stage, and how it is a director's medium primarily. I have made three Pulitzer Prize plays into pictures. Arsenic and Old Lace, State of the Union, and You Can't Take It With You. And they were all had to do with Lindsay and Krauss. Now, I had to change them all. And I made some big changes in these films to make in these plays to make a films out of them. Yeah. And that took a little guts to do, because these were Pulitzer Prize plays. You don't fool around with anything that's very good.
They must have hated that, didn't they?
No, they didn't, because it turned out all right. But now I want to tell you, I was making some changes in the State of the Union that I was a little worried about, And Lindsay and Krause were in Hollywood at the time, so I called Lindsay, I asked him to have lunch, and I wanted to tell him these changes. And he says, I don't want to hear anything about any changes. I don't want to hear anything about anything. I said, what's the matter with you? You know, he's very down. He says, well, he says, Life with Father played 10 years on Broadway. We wore out 3 sets of kids. Everybody played it. I played it. Everybody played it. No matter who played it, it was a hit. And we sold it to Warner Brothers, and we were afraid of any changes. They shouldn't make any changes because we didn't know what made this play good, you know. So we had in the contract that we had to supervise every scene, every cut, every line. So they were on the set all the time. The curls were the same as the curls on the kids on the stage. The shoes, the button shoes, everything. The signs on the wall of the little house. Everything was exactly the same because they were afraid to touch anything. And he says, last night we previewed this Life with Father. Now remember, this is the biggest stage hit ever put on. I tried to buy that thing many, many times. And he says, the audience walked out in the middle of it, and we have nothing, a complete flop. And it's exactly the stage play. Now, this I just couldn't believe, but it happens. So we have a different medium.
They filmed the play to be safe, and it bombed.
They filmed the play to be absolutely safe, and they bombed.
How do you explain? Did you suggest taking out the first 2 reels? Or?
I was...
That is...
I couldn't explain it. I don't know. All I know is we got a different medium.
Yeah.
You mentioned Leo McCarey, who died a year or so ago. I interviewed him in the hospital, actually. And he told me a wonderful, I don't know if we have time, he told me a wonderful story about Laurel and Hardy.
Can you tell it in a minute and a half?
Try.
Okay.
You know, a lot of the Laurel and Hardy gags were based on thorough destruction, beginning small and building to epic proportions, you know, starting with cars or whatever. And I asked him how he got the idea for that, where it all started. He said he was in New York, it was in the 20s, he was in New York with Charlie Chase and a bunch of people, and they were all going to go to a party, and he didn't know how to tie a bow tie. So he asked Mabel Normand, he says, would you tie my bow tie? She says, no, let's leave him. And they left him without the tie being tied. And so he sat there and he couldn't think how to tie the bow tie, and he called up a friend of his in Hollywood. He says, do you know, I know how to tie a bow tie. And it was a photographer, and the photographer says, well, you're in luck, because my wife is doing a show in New York, and she knows how to tie a bow tie. Now, I'll call her, and she'll come over and tie your tie for you. So sure enough, she comes to I'm shortening it. She comes over to the hotel, and she ties the tie for him. And he's very happy. He goes to the nightclub, you know, and sits down. He sits down, and they all say, hi, Leo. Hi. And he tells the story, what happened. Well, you see, I went, and he tells the whole story. And as he finishes, Mabel Normand leans over and pulls his tie. So everybody laughs. Hal Roach laughs, and he leans over and pulls Hal Roach's tie. Hal Roach leans over, pulls Charlie Chase's tie. And then the guy leans over in the next table, and they do it the whole nightclub. Everybody started pulling ties. And when they ran out of ties, they started ripping the tuxedo jackets up the back. And he says after about, 10 or 15 minutes, the whole place was a shambles, and that was the basis for 10 or 12 Laurel and Hardy pictures.
Oh, that's wonderful. Sure. Let's start right now. We have a message. We'll be right back. Thanks, gentlemen. I wish we had more time. Frank Capra's book is called The Name Above the Title, and you will want to read that. Good night. Thanks.